Today is Friday, November the 7th, and with the McClellan oscillator continuing to be really stubbornly pegged high above this overbought line now for a couple of weeks, and you can see that that hasn't happened yet this year. And if you look at what McClellan has published in the last few weeks, I think he said we haven't seen something like this, since 2007, but I'm not exactly sure because I can't put my hands on that note that he sent out. But let's take a look at some of the interesting Fibonacci ratios for the SP 500 this year. So we look at where the year started, January 2nd, right here at this value. And we draw a Fibonacci of 100% here down to the lowest point where the market really began its steep climb. And we notice some interesting things. We notice, first of all, that the pullback that occurred just recently, that V-shaped pullback, was exactly to the January 2nd opening price of the SP 500. So all of the gains that occurred up to this point, and that's October 16th, all of the gains in the SP 500 have been wiped out. But investors were saying, okay, that's enough of a pullback. We've wiped out our gains in the SP 500, and then they continue to pile in. We're below the 200, and they continue to pile in, and we have this V-shaped move. So now we want to look at two moves. We want to look at this Fibonacci extended, and let's see how far above the January 2 level we can go. And then let's take a look at this recent pullback, this V-shaped pullback that came back to just touching the January 2nd level, and let's do a Fibonacci extension there as well. And you see a couple of interesting things. Now here I've marked where the QE ended. That was the Fed meeting where they essentially said this is the end of QE. And we've moved up since then quite nicely, but look at the Fibonacci's. We have this 261% of the January 7th high. That's a significant Fibonacci level, and that 261 is the high that we made on September the 19th before the pullback. So it represents the 100% of this area right here. And the two fibs will continue now to be in pretty good synchronization, where 127.2 recovery of the V-shaped pullback is going to equal 300% Fibonacci of the January to February, January 2nd to February 4th low. So the target that we're looking for next for a significant test is going to be right around 2062 to 2065 in the SP 500. Now whether we can do it this year or not remains to be seen. If we look at the stochastic RSI, we can see that the stochastic RSI is in really heavy overbought territory, which coincides with what we saw in the McClellan oscillator. So targets again, 2062 to 2066.